I want to share with you a story that actually happened. I witnessed it myself. I don't know if it's supernatural or not, but I think it is. In the year 2000, there was a Satanist gang in our town. They were doing all sorts of things. They desecrated graves, burned wreaths, tore up graves, sacrificed dogs and cats on crosses, organized some wild games in cemeteries. In a word, a nightmare. And no one could do anything, because the father of one of the gang members was a high-ranking official. So, on the night of April 29 to 30, 2001, these, let's say, citizens, led by their spiritual leader, were returning from another meeting at a rural cemetery not far from the city. Since it was a long way to the highway leading directly to the city, they decided to drive through the territory of our metallurgical plant. I must say that at night it is always quite lively there, with Bella's trucks passing by in droves. In general, the entrance to the territory is closed to passenger cars, and no one has ever understood how they manage to get there. Bella's is a huge machine, under which a passenger car can easily pass. The company was driving a Niva. 6 people squeezed into a relatively small car. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the comrades, returning from the cemetery, collided with a loaded Bella's. The final chord was unforgettable. The roof of the Niva was completely sheared off, as were the 2 heads of the passengers. 5 of the entire company died on the spot. The 6th, the inspirer and teacher, was taken to our hospital with injuries that by all medical rules were incompatible with life. But he survived. 20 minutes later he was in the operating room. Another 20 minutes after the operation started, he died. Because it happened in the operating room, he was immediately resuscitated. Otherwise, if you don't take action, you will end up in court. There's an 8-minute window. You could, of course, resuscitate him longer, but then it would no longer be a person, but a plant, because the brain cells would start to die. I'm not gonna lie, everyone was hoping his heart would fail and he'd die. He regained consciousness 6 minutes later. The surgery lasted almost 8 hours. All available surgeons and trauma surgeons, including subspecialists, took turns assembling, stitching and repairing him piece by piece. He came out 5 more times during that time, but was brought back in at the 6th minute. 8 hours later, he was placed in the intensive care unit, hooked up to a ventilator, wrapped in tubes and wires, and shackled in a cast. Everyone thought he would never come out of the coma. But he did. He regained consciousness 24 hours later, fully feeling the pain of his broken, wounded and mangled body. I don't know what they were doing in that abandoned cemetery, who they worshipped and what they asked for, he didn't tell me. But the first thing he did when he regained consciousness was to ask the priest from the local church. And there was such unconcealed horror in his eyes that the ICU nurses were simply afraid to approach him. Not pain, not suffering, but real pure terror. And his life after the accident began. If you can call it a life. After the surgery, he had all sorts of complications. Pneumonia, suture failure, etc. I won't go on. To top it all off, he got osteomyelitis. The guy was rotting alive, his bones were literally melting. No one could remember how many times he'd been taken in for surgery, the trauma surgeons lost count. His medical history turned into a thick volume. It's impossible to count how many times his heart stopped. But every time he was resuscitated, he came back in the 6th minute. No sooner, no later. always at the 6th minute. It was very mystical. It was like someone was mocking him, not letting him die and find peace. After about 6 months of his suffering, one doctor secretly decided to do a mean thing, and, when his blood pressure dropped to 0 and a flat line appeared on the cardiograph, did not resuscitate the guy, deciding to let him go in peace and end his suffering. You won't believe it, but on the 6th minute, there was a pulse again on the carotid artery, and the machine produced a clear curve. The guy came back to life. On his own. No help from anyone. After that, the resuscitator resigned of his own accord and went to work in a paid center as an ultrasound doctor. The guy died exactly 1 year later, on the night of April 29 to 30, at 5 o'clock in the morning, having drunk a spoonful of misery. It was as if he had been dragged alive through all the circles of hell on purpose. Many years have passed since then, but all the staff of our hospital still remember this story. And I keep asking myself, what was it? Who were they calling or trying to call to the cemetery back then? How to explain all this? I am a medically trained person who has performed dozens of surgeries and seen death more than once. I should treat everything with a healthy skepticism inherent in all medical professions. But I can't. I just can't. I just can't explain it, and that's why I'm scared. What if there's something unknown, something so scary it makes my hair stand on end?